The moment you realize you can't carry it the same way anymore, you did not break all at once. It happened quietly, gradually, in ways no one else could see. You kept showing up. You kept answering. You kept holding everything together, even when something inside you was asking for rest. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet signal, a quiet wait, a quiet tiredness that stayed longer than it should have. You told yourself it was just a phase, that once things settled, you would breathe again, that once the pressure eased, you would feel like yourself again. But the pressure did not ease. Yeah, shifted. It changed form. It followed you into new days. And now you notice something different. It is not the circumstances that trouble you the most. It is the effort it takes just to keep carrying them. You wake up, and before anything even happens, you already feel behind, not because you failed, but because your heart has been carrying more than it was designed to carry alone. You move through your day, completing what needs to be done, saying what needs to be said, fulfilling what is expected. Yet inside, there is a quiet voice asking a question you have been afraid to answer. How much longer can I keep doing this the same way? Listen to me. I know that question. I know the moment it formed in you. I was there when you first felt the weight begin to settle deeper. I saw the strength you used to continue. I saw the courage it took just to remain steady when everything inside you wanted to stop. You think your tiredness makes you weak, but your tiredness tells the truth. It reveals how much you have carried. It reveals how long you have endured without relief. You do not need to hide this from me. You do not need to explain why your strength feels different now. I understand what exhaustion does to the heart. I understand how it slowly changes the way you see yourself. And I want you to know something that your fear has tried to convince you otherwise. Your tiredness does not distance you from me. It brings you closer to my care, because when you can no longer carry everything the same way, that is where I begin to carry you differently. The exhaustion no one sees. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. You know this. You have rested your body, yet your heart still feels heavy. You have given yourself time, yet the weight remains. This is not because you are doing something wrong. It is because what you carry does not live in your muscles. It lives in the quiet places no one else can see. You have been strong for longer than most people realize. You have held your emotions in place so others could feel safe. You have chosen patience when frustration would have been easier. You have stayed steady when everything inside you felt uncertain. No one applauded those moments. No one stopped to ask how much it cost you. But I saw every second of it. I saw the moments you stayed silent to avoid creating more tension. I saw the times you absorbed the pressure so others would not have to. I saw how you protected everyone else from the weight, even while it was slowly wearing down your own strength. This kind of love is invisible to the world, but it is not invisible to me. You began to believe that being strong meant never needing support. You began to believe that your role was to carry, not to be carried. And over time, you stopped asking for relief, not because you did not need it, but because you did not know where to place your tiredness without feeling like a burden. Listen to me carefully. You were never meant to carry your heart alone. The exhaustion you feel is not a sign that you have failed. It is a sign that you have been carrying more than one person was meant to carry. It is a sign that your soul has been giving without receiving, and now your heart is asking for something sacred, not more effort, not more endurance, but permission to stop holding everything by yourself. This is where I meet you, not in the moments when you appear strong, but in the moments when you are honest about your need for rest. Why emotional fatigue makes you feel spiritually distant. You began to notice something that troubled you. It was not just the exhaustion. It was the silence. Moments that once felt full of comfort now felt quiet. Prayers that once felt natural now felt harder to reach, not because you stopped believing, but because your heart no longer had the same energy to express what it carried. This is what emotional fatigue does. It does not remove your faith. It dims your ability to feel what has always been there. You wondered if something had changed between us. You wondered if your tiredness created distance. You questioned yourself in ways you never had before. You asked questions quietly, without saying them out loud. Why do I feel alone when I am trying so hard to remain faithful? Listen to me. Your exhaustion did not push me away. Emotional fatigue narrows your awareness. It protects you from feeling too much at once. It slows everything down so your heart can survive what it has been carrying. This includes your ability to feel comfort, not because comfort is gone, but because your soul is trying to recover its strength. I have not stepped back from you. I have remained where I have always been, closer than your thoughts, closer than your fears, closer than the questions you have been afraid to ask. You measure my presence by what you feel, but my presence is not defined by your emotional energy. I do not love you more when you feel strong. I do not love you less when you feel tired. My care for you does not rise and fall with your capacity. Even now, in this quietness, I am here. Even now, while your heart feels worn and uncertain, I have not withdrawn. Your tiredness did not create distance. Your tiredness created space for you to stop carrying yourself alone. And what happens next will change the way you understand strength itself. God does not approach you with expectations, but with understanding. You have lived under expectations for so long that you no longer notice their weight. Expectations to remain steady, expectations to remain capable, expectations to remain in control. Even in your quiet moments, you have carried the belief that you must hold yourself together before you can come close to me. But listen carefully. I have never asked you to prove your strength. I do not approach you the way the world does. I do not measure you by how much you can endure. I do not step closer only when you appear unshaken. I move toward you most gently when your strength feels uncertain, not to evaluate you, not to correct you, but to support what has been carrying too much for too long. You thought you needed to overcome this exhaustion before reaching for me. You thought you needed to fix what you feel before allowing yourself to be seen. But I have already seen you completely. I saw the moment your energy began to fade. I saw the moment you chose to continue anyway. I saw the courage it took just to keep moving forward when nothing inside you felt restored. I am not waiting for you to recover before I care for you. I care for you now, in this exact moment, in this exact state. You do not need to prepare yourself to receive my compassion. You do not need to hide your tiredness behind effort. I do not see your fatigue as weakness. I see it as truth. Truth about how much you have given. Truth about how long you have remained strong without relief. Let me meet you without resistance. Let me stand beside you without expectation, because what I offer you cannot be earned through endurance. It can only be received through trust. And what I will show you next will release a burden you were never meant to carry alone. The sacred permission to stop carrying everything alone. You learned to carry things without asking for help, not because you wanted to suffer in silence, but because you believed it was your responsibility. You believed that if you did not hold everything together, something would fall apart. So you tightened your grip. You held your emotions in place. You held your fears in place. You held your exhaustion in place, hoping that if you remained strong long enough, relief would eventually come. But your heart was never designed to live this way. There is a difference between strength and constant survival. Strength restores. Survival only sustains. And you have been surviving for longer than you realize. You have been holding your breath emotionally, waiting for the moment when it would finally feel safe to release what you carry. Listen to me now. You do not need to hold everything anymore, not because you are incapable, but because You were never meant to carry it alone in the first place. You were not created to be the source of your own stability. You were created to live in relationship with my care, to live in the quiet assurance that when your strength reaches its limit, mine does not. Let your guard soften, not all at once, not with force, just enough to allow yourself to stop resisting. The rest your heart has been asking for. You are not losing control. You are releasing a burden that was never yours to sustain by yourself. And when you stop carrying everything alone, something unexpected begins to happen. Not around you, but within you. What God is doing while you are too tired to move forward. You have been taught to believe that progress only happens when you move, that healing only happens when you act, that strength only returns when you push yourself beyond what you feel capable of. So, when your energy faded, when your heart could no longer move at the same pace, you began to fear that everything important had stopped. But listen carefully, your stillness has not stopped. My work, there are things I restore in you that cannot be restored through effort. There are places within your heart that only heal when you stop forcing yourself to continue while you were trying to hold everything together. Parts of you remained tense, alert, unable to receive the restoration you needed, not because you did something wrong, but because survival does not leave room for deep renewal. Even now, while you feel paused, I am not paused. I am restoring what exhaustion weakened. I am strengthening what pressure drained. I am calming the parts of you that have remained in quiet tension for too long. You may not feel it immediately. You may not see it clearly. But restoration often begins beneath your awareness, long before it reaches your emotions. You are not falling behind. You are being rebuilt in ways that require gentleness, not force. Trust what you cannot yet see, because what returns to you after this season will not be the same strength you had before. It will be a deeper strength, a quieter strength, a strength that no longer depends on constant effort to remain steady. And when you begin to feel this new strength rising, you will understand something that exhaustion was trying to teach you all along. Emotional fatigue is not the end of your strength. It is the beginning of a different kind of strength. You were taught that strength meant continuing without stopping. That strength meant enduring without hesitation. That strength meant holding everything together, no matter how heavy it became. And for a long time, you lived this way. You carried what was placed on your shoulders. You endured what was placed in your path. You remained steady, even when your heart quietly asked for relief. But exhaustion revealed something important. It showed you the limit of strength that depends only on yourself. This is not failure. This is transformation. There is a strength that does not come from effort. There is a strength that does not require you to push beyond your limits. It is the strength that appears when you stop resisting support. It is the strength that grows when you allow yourself to be held instead of holding everything alone. You believed strength meant controlling every outcome. But true strength is trusting when you cannot see the outcome yet. You believed strength meant never bending. But true strength is allowing yourself to soften without fear of breaking. You believed strength meant standing alone. But true strength is knowing you were never alone to begin with. This is the strength I am building in you now, not the kind that exhausts you, the kind that sustains you, not the kind that demands constant effort, the kind that remains steady even in stillness. You are not becoming weaker. You are becoming supported in a way you have never allowed yourself to experience before. And as this new strength begins to settle into your heart, you will begin to feel something else return. Not pressure, not urgency, but peace. God is closest to you in this exact moment. You thought I was waiting for you to recover. You thought I was waiting for you to become strong again, waiting for you to pray with certainty, waiting for you to stand without hesitation, waiting for you to feel confident before you came close to me. But I have never stood at a distance from your weakness. I moved closer when you became tired. I moved closer when your strength began to fade. I moved closer when your heart stopped pretending, not to demand anything from you, not to remind you of what you should have done differently, but to be with you in a way you could finally receive. You are not alone inside this exhaustion. Even now, as you sit here listening, as your heart quietly carries everything it has endured, I am here, not watching from afar, not waiting for you to reach me. I am here, within reach of your most fragile thoughts, within reach of the emotions you have been holding in silence. You do not need to perform to remain loved. You do not need to prove your strength to remain worthy of care. You do not need to overcome your exhaustion to remain close to me. Rest here, not because everything around you has changed, but because you no longer have to carry everything inside you alone. I understand your tired heart, and I am not going anywhere. You do not need to be strong right now. You only need to stay. There is something you have been trying to do without realizing it. You have been trying to return to the version of yourself that did not feel this tired. You have been trying to recover your strength as quickly as possible, as if rest were something temporary, as if stillness were something to escape. You told yourself that once you felt strong again, everything would feel safe again. But listen to me carefully. You do not need to rush your restoration. You do not need to force yourself forward to prove that you are healing. You do not need to rebuild your strength through pressure. What your heart needs now is not urgency. It is safety. It is the quiet assurance that you are allowed to remain here without fear of falling behind. Stay here with me, not because you have nowhere else to go, but because this is where your strength returns without force. Your value has not been reduced because your energy has changed. Your worth has not been diminished because your heart needed to slow down. You are not less capable. You are not less important. You are not less loved. You are in the middle of being restored. Let this moment exist without trying to control what comes next. Let yourself breathe without needing to solve everything. Let yourself exist without the pressure of becoming stronger immediately, because strength is already returning quietly, gently, steadily, and soon you will realize that you were never abandoned inside this exhaustion. You were being held the entire time. This is where your heart learns it is safe again. For a long time, your heart has lived in alertness, even in quiet moments. Something inside you remained prepared. Prepared to endure, prepared to respond, prepared to carry whatever came next. You may not have noticed it consciously, but your soul learned to stay ready because it did not know when relief would come. This is what exhaustion does. It keeps your heart in a state of silent protection. But you do not need to protect yourself from me. You do not need to remain guarded in my presence. You do not need to anticipate disappointment. You do not need to prepare yourself for more weight. I am not here to place more on your shoulders. I am here to remove what you were never meant to carry alone. Let your heart feel this, not as an idea, but as a reality. You are safe to release the tension you have been holding. You are safe to stop bracing yourself. You are safe to exist without expecting something else to break. I have not brought you this far to leave you in uncertainty. I have stayed beside you through every moment of strength, and I remain beside you now in this moment of rest. Your heart is not fragile in my hands. Your heart is secure. You may not know what tomorrow will require, but you do not need to carry tomorrow tonight. You do not need to solve what has not arrived. You do not need to become strong all at once. Right now, it is enough to be here. Right now, it is enough to let yourself be held without resistance, because the peace you feel in this moment is not temporary. It is the beginning of living without carrying everything alone. You were never meant to survive without being held. You became used to holding yourself together. You became used to recovering on your own. You learned how to quiet your emotions so you could continue. You learned how to carry disappointment without letting it stop you. You learned how to move forward even when your heart remained behind, still trying to process what it had endured. You became strong in ways that no one taught you. Strong because you had to be. But there is something your strength was never meant to replace. You were never meant to live without being held. Not held by your own effort. Not held by your ability to endure. Held by something greater than your strength. Held by a presence that does not weaken when you do. Held by a love that does not withdraw when you feel tired. I have been holding you longer than you realize, even in moments when you believed you were standing alone. I was the quiet stability beneath you. Even when your thoughts felt uncertain, I remained certain about you. Even when your heart felt fragile, I remained steady beside you. You do not need to return to who you were before this exhaustion. You are becoming someone who no longer lives by survival alone. Someone who no longer believes everything depends on personal strength. Someone who understands that being held is not weakness, it is truth. You do not need to prove that you can survive without support. You only need to allow yourself to remain where my care can reach you fully. And as you begin to live from this place, something inside you will begin to settle in a way it never has before. Rest is not where your story ends. It is where your strength is rewritten. You feared this moment more than you admit. Not the exhaustion itself, but what it meant. You feared that slowing down would make you lose momentum. You feared that resting would make you lose progress. You feared that if you stopped holding everything together, something important would slip beyond your control. So you resisted rest. You delayed it. You treated it like something dangerous, something that might cost you the future you were trying so hard to protect. But rest was never your enemy. Rest is where I begin, restoring what effort could not sustain. While you were carrying everything alone, your strength depended on how much you could endure. But the strength I am building in you now does not depend on endurance. It depends on connection. It depends on trust. It depends on your willingness to remain where my care can reach the parts of you that effort never could. You are not losing yourself in this moment of rest. You are finding the version of yourself that no longer lives in constant survival, the version of yourself that does not wake up already burdened by yesterday, the version of yourself that does not measure worth by how much can be carried alone, the version of yourself that knows peace is not something earned through exhaustion, but something received through surrender. Your story is not paused. Your story is being rewritten in a way that no longer requires you to carry everything by yourself. And when you rise from this place, you will not rise alone. You will not always feel this tired right. Now it feels permanent, not because you believe it will last forever, but because exhaustion changes the way time feels. It makes every day feel heavier. It makes every step feel slower. It makes it harder to remember what it felt like to move through life without carrying this weight. You began to wonder if this tiredness had become part of who you are. But listen to me, this is not your final state. This exhaustion is not your identity. It is a season where your heart has been asked to release what it can no longer sustain. A season where your strength is no longer measured by how much you carry, but by how much you allow yourself to receive. I know how deeply this fatigue has reached into your thoughts. I know how it has shaped the way you see yourself. I know how it has made you question your capacity, but your capacity is not gone. It is being restored in a way that will no longer require you to abandon yourself to remain strong. There will come a moment when you notice it, a moment when your breathing feels lighter, a moment when your thoughts feel clearer, a moment when your heart no longer feels like it is holding everything at once, not because you forced it, but because you allowed yourself to remain where my care could reach you fully. You are not stuck here. You are passing through a place where your strength is being returned to you in a way that will not break you again. And when that moment arrives, you will understand something that exhaustion could never take from you. You are safe to rest. Now you have carried enough. Not just today, not just this week, but for longer than most people know. You carried expectations. You carried uncertainty. You carried emotions. You never spoke out loud. You carried responsibility when your heart quietly needed relief. And through all of it, you remained standing, not because it was easy, but because you did not know where it was safe to lay the weight down. Now, you know, you do not need to hold yourself together in order to remain held by me. You do not need to prepare yourself before you come close. You do not need to recover your strength before you allow yourself to rest. You are safe to be exactly where you are, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer carrying it alone. Feel this moment not as an ending, but as a release. Your breathing can slow. Your thoughts can soften. Your heart does not need to remain alert. Nothing is required from you right now. Nothing needs to be proven. Nothing needs to be forced. Forward. I am here, not for the version of you that feels strong, but for the version of you that feels tired, the version of you that remained faithful even while exhausted, the version of you that continued even when no one else could see the effort it required. You are not weak for needing rest. You are human, and you are loved completely within. This moment Rest here, not in fear, not in uncertainty, but in the quiet assurance that you are seen, that you are understood, that you are held, and you are not alone